I want all of you, you'll never change. Your love won't let me down. Love won't let me.
Well, good morning, everyone. I hope that you'll join us now as we lift up praise and worship to our great God. And good morning to you online. We're glad you're with us. Before I ever cry, you answer me from where the thunder hides. I can't outrun this heart I'm tethered to. With every step, I collide with you. Like a tidal wave crashing over me, rushing in to meet me here. Your love is fierce, like a hurricane that I can't escape, tearing through the atmosphere. Your love is fierce, you cannot fail. The only thing I found is through it all, you never let me down. You don't hold back, relentless in pursuit. And every turn, I come face to face with you. Like a tidal wave, crashing over me, rushing in to meet me here. Your love is fierce, like a hurricane that I can't escape, tearing through the atmosphere. Your love is fierce. You surround me, you chase me down, you seek me out. How could I be lost when you have called me down? You chase me down, you seek me out. How could I be lost when you have called me down? You chase me down, you seek me out. How could I be lost when you have called me found? Like a tidal wave crashing over me, rushing in to meet me here. Your love is fierce, like a hurricane that I can't escape, tearing through the atmosphere. Your love is fierce. Your love is fierce. Your love is fierce. Your love is fierce.
All right, good morning, everybody. To those of you that are here with us physically on our Averett campus in the Worship Center, and those of you that are tuning in at home via our streaming outlets, y'all here can take a seat. I'm going to give a few announcements. My name is Rudy Lyon. I'm the Director of Sports Ministries here at GCC. And just to give you some of those announcements, it's going to be a little bit longer list than what we normally have for announcements, but that's because we got a lot of great things going on here in October. So first thing you need to know, starting next Sunday, the 18th, we will be having GC Kids programming for both services, the 9:30 and the 11 a.m. service. So now if you have kids that want to take part in that programming, you have options. You can choose which service you'd like to attend. Piggybacking off of the GC Kids Ministry, we have a kids event that is upcoming here in the next couple weeks. On Friday, October 30th, we will be having a drive-through trunk or treat here in our parking lot, and that'll be from 6:30 to 8 p.m. If you'd like to get involved with that and pitch in any way, please contact John Veach. He's working hard with the outreach team to get this up and running on a fairly short notice, so all hands on deck. We'd love to have some volunteers and help. You can also help out by donating candy, packaged candy out in our lobby, in our commons, at the Connection Center. So if you have anything that you'd like to donate, just one bag, every little bit helps. You can drop it off out in the commons. More to do with my realm of expertise in the sports world. We just wrapped up our youth soccer season, which was modified in a lot of ways, but just for being safety-minded, and I think it was a great success. And now we're segueing into our men's basketball league that starts tomorrow night. We put that on pause because we got one game in back in March before the stay-at-home orders went into effect, and now we're hitting unpause and getting it going again. And that season will run through Thanksgiving and on into December. And when that ends, that'll get us into the idea of youth basketball, which I know historically registration would have started in September, but taking everything at a slower pace, we're going to be opening registration starting next Monday. So if you go to our website, greenwoodchristian.com/sports, log into your Sports Connect account, you can register your child or however many children you have interested in playing youth basketball. We are planning tentatively right now. There's a lot of things that I got to think through creatively on how we can best serve the community that wants to get involved in a basketball league where we have a one-court gymnasium. And so we'll read the room, we'll read the lay of the land as different health organizations and information comes out, even amidst cold and flu season. And with registering, you'll be added to a wait list. So there won't be a transaction happening. You'll just kind of save your spot for the league if we can continue business as usual or some modified way. So I encourage you to check that out starting next Monday. And then lastly, as has been custom since we reopened back in June, as we exit today, please help yourself to some communion cups so that you can, on your own time, take of the bread and the cup. So with that said, please stand and we'll continue worshiping on this great Sunday morning.
Oh, don't lose heart, oh my soul, and don't give up. There is hope, there is always hope. And there is peace in the storm, No, don't forget, He is Lord of all. There is a King of glory, there is a God who saves, one who is strong and mighty, freedom is in His name. Open the gates of heaven, lift up a shout of praise. There is a lion roaring, Jesus the King of glory. So lift your eyes, stand in awe. Comes from. There is a King of glory, there is a God who saves, one who is strong and mighty, freedom is in His name. Open the gates of heaven, lift up a shout of praise. There is a lion roaring, Jesus the King of glory. just one name over all. Jesus reigns, I know. Nations bow, mountains shake at the sound of just one name over all. Jesus reigns, I know, I know. There is a King of glory, there is a God who saves, one who is strong and mighty, freedom is in his name. Open the gates of heaven, lift up the shout of praise. There is a lion roaring, Jesus the King of glory. There is a lion roaring, Jesus the King of glory. With every breath, with every word I speak, with every step, with every heartbeat, Jesus, let it be for you only, my whole life, all for your glory. With every breath, with every word I speak, with every step, with every heartbeat, Jesus, let it be for you only, my whole life, all for your glory. My life is in your hands, I trust it all to you, my dreams and all my plans, I trust it all. Forever I am changed, I'll never be the same, because of your love, because of your love. Forever I am changed, I'll never be the same, because of your love, because of you, Jesus. Whoa, because of you, Jesus. Whoa. For all my days, God, you are my God. I give you all, my heart is open wide. Jesus, let it be for you only, my whole life, all for your glory, all for your glory. My life is in your hands, I trust it all to you, my dreams and all my plans, trust it all, I trust it all. Forever I am changed, I'll never be the same, because of your love, because of your love. Forever I am changed, I'll never be the same, because of your love, because of you, Jesus. Whoa, because of you, Jesus. Whoa, you are everything you are. All I need, I am forever in love with you, forever in love with you. Are everything you are. All I need, I am forever in love with you, forever in love with you. Are everything you are. All I need, I am forever
Well, good morning. My name is Jason Weatherholt. I am privileged to serve as the worship minister here at Greenwood Christian Church. Whether you are joining us here in the room at our Averett campus, maybe some of you are hanging out in the car driving for fall break, or some are snuggled up on the couch with a pet watching us online. We're just so thankful we get to spend a little bit of time together today. Now, it was just over 4 short years ago, it was 4 years ago in June, actually, that a certain senior minister in Greenwood, Indiana, called a strikingly handsome Chicago Cubs fan to talk. Okay, I'm just kidding. Anyway, called to talk about a worship ministry position here in Greenwood. And after a few conversations on the phone and an in-person meeting, it was the week after Father's Day, that June 2016, that Elizabeth and I dropped the kids off at grandparents and headed over here for an interview weekend. And it was a little bit of kind of a different time because there was some kind of volleyball tournament, something like that going on in Greenwood, so they couldn't find a hotel room for us anywhere. And Perry Anderson, who used to be on our staff, Perry and his wife Tammy were going to be out of town, and so they just stepped up and said, you know what, they can stay in our house. Why don't you just let them stay in our house? Now, there are two really important things to note here. First, that is just a testimony to how incredibly gracious Perry and Tammy are. They're just such great folks, and we appreciate that. The second thing is, I pretty much talk about Perry from this stage anytime I can because I love showing this picture, all right? This is just my little buddy and me. It's just a great camera angle. Anyway, so I love showing that picture of Perry. But it's still crazy to me that they allowed us, without ever having met us, to stay in their house over that weekend. And then I got to think about it. I thought, well, maybe if you've never met me, it's easier to think about letting me stay at your house for a weekend. I don't know. But I do have to tell you that staying at their house didn't come without a cost, all right? So for months after that weekend, Perry told anybody who would listen that I rummaged through his underwear drawer while we stayed at the house and wore all of his underwear, which is categorically false, right? Because none of them matched my eyes. So I didn't end up wearing any of the ones I found. But anyway, so spoiler alert, we ended up taking the job, and we were introduced pretty quickly to balanced calendar schools. So we said yes to the position here at the church about the second week in July. And then by about the third week in July, Elizabeth and the girls had to move down here to start school. So once again, Perry and Tammy stepped up and they said, well, they can just come and stay with us. It'll be fine. We're glad to host them. But man, there was no way I was getting anywhere near Underwear Anderson's house after the incident, right? It's not going to happen. So around that same time, Steve and Donna Jones stepped forward and said, hey, we've got plenty of space at our house. The Weatherholts are welcome to come stay with us. We've got teenage kids as well, and they can come and stay for a few months while their house sells. Well, a few months turned into July through November. So you can imagine, as much as I am to take in for an hour on a weekend, how much it must be like to have 5 months of me in your house all of the time. Poor Steve and Donna deserve medals of valor for their service and all of that. But the ongoing act of kindness, hospitality, generosity that they showed us forged a bond with us that goes far beyond friendship. I mean, we consider the Joneses to be family for us, not just friends. In fact, we are so close to the Joneses that we share dog-sitting responsibilities back and forth with the Joneses, right? I mean, that is like the highest level of friendship that it gets, right? When it comes to the kids, it's like anybody with an unmarked van and some candy can take our kids for a while. That's no big deal. But to trade dog-sitting responsibilities, we have to see a multi-page application, and we want to see some reference checks and all of that kind of stuff. Anyway, I don't know about you, but over the course of our lives, we have been the recipients of some absolutely incredible hospitality and generosity. And time again in my own life, I have watched hospitality form bonds between people. I've watched it meet needs. I've watched it show love to folks, and I've watched it pave the way for faith to be shared. Hospitality opens doors for Jesus. Well, we're in a series called Greater Than Me. And the way our brainstorming and planning and prayerful consideration for series usually goes is there are a group of us that get together in August, typically for a couple-day retreat, and we plan out the next year's series. And so last August, a year ago, there were a group of us that went away And as we were thinking through what we felt like would be great for us to challenge each other on over the course of a year here at our church, we just had a feeling that maybe September and October of 2020 might be a contentious time for our country. We thought, the little election going on and stuff like that, we might be a great time for us to be reminded of a few things that are important. Now, we had no idea back in August about words like COVID. We had no idea we were going to be fighting about masks and all. We had no idea any of that stuff. But what we recognized was it might be a good season for us to be convicted, to be reminded that our relationship with Christ should be greater than everything else going on. And that when we think about our relationships with each other and how we relate and our rhetoric and the things that we say, it should be defined by that relationship with Christ. So what we've been doing is we've been walking our way through the 12th chapter of Romans. So if you have a Bible with you, or maybe you use an app on your phone to look up Scripture, we would invite you to get that out today. We're going to be in Romans chapter 12, if you want to get that out. And the book of Romans is a letter in the New Testament written by a guy named Paul. Okay, outside of Jesus, Paul is probably one of the greatest advocates for Christianity in the history of the world. He's a guy who traveled and spoke and taught, and he wrote these letters. And the book of Romans is just a letter written to these believers who were in Rome. They were particularly Gentile believers, which means they were not Jewish. They did not grow up in their faith. They came to faith later on. And so he writes to these believers. And if you're ever curious how Paul's letters are organized in the Bible, they're not organized chronologically. They're just organized by size. So Romans is the largest letter that Paul wrote. That's why we have it first. And it goes all the way down to Philemon, the shortest letter that he wrote. And that's the last one. That's how they're organized in the New Testament. And he writes this to help strengthen these believers' faith, to challenge them, because he knows that they live in a world that's a little bit hostile to the faith in Jesus that they hold, and he wants to help encourage them, which I think is great for us. So we're going to look at Romans chapter 12 together. We're going to start at verse 1, even though that's not the part we're going to focus on today, but I think it gives us some great context. So here's what it says in Romans chapter 12, verse 1. Therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. Now let's skip down to verse 9. This is going to be the section we really look at today. Love must be sincere. Hold that thought in your mind. We're going to come back to that in a minute. Love must be sincere. Hate what is evil. Cling to what is good. Be devoted to one another. Honor one another above yourselves. Never be lacking in zeal, but keep your spiritual fervor serving the Lord. Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. Share with the Lord's people who are in need. Practice hospitality. Bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Mourn with those who mourn. Live in harmony with one another. Do not be proud, but willing to associate with people of low position. Do not be conceited. And I really want to focus in on verse 13 today. So let's read that again. It says this. It says, share with the Lord's people who are in need. Practice hospitality. And even in this short verse, it's just a couple of thoughts that Paul offers us. There is just a ton going on. What he's doing is he's describing how we respond to what God has already done for us. Okay, and he attaches to that response the idea of hospitality. He's essentially saying, listen, we show hospitality because what else could we possibly do in response to what God has already done for us? And the word that Paul uses here is a very interesting word. It's the word philoxenia. Okay, and when I pronounce it that way, it probably doesn't jump out at you. But if we pronounce it philoxenia, you might catch a couple of other words that make kind of this compound word. All right, you might catch philo, Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love, and you might catch xenia at the end. We use the word xenophobia, right? The fear of strangers or unknown or whatever. So literally, hospitality, philoxenia, is the love of strangers. That's what hospitality is in the New Testament, love of strangers. And he only uses this word is only used twice in the entire New Testament. The other time is in Hebrews 13:2, where it says, do not forget to show hospitality to strangers. For by doing so, some people have shown hospitality to angels without knowing it. Now, obviously, they had a little bit more angel visitation going on in the New Testament world, or at least they were more aware of the supernatural than we necessarily are. And I don't want to get lost in that one. The point for us is we show love to strangers because God has shown love to us. Now, the first century world is completely different than our world when it comes to travel, right? So the folks who are away on fall break, those folks, you probably get on, you decide what area you want to go to, you hop on Expedia, you decide what amenities you want with your hotel, what star level you want to book, and you book something ahead of time. You know exactly where you're going, how you're going to get there, and what you're going to do, right? But in the first century world, it's completely different. If somebody was going to head to Rome because they had to do business or whatever there, then they would just pack up all of their things that they needed for the trip. They'd head there, they'd go to the marketplace and begin talking with people. And the hope is that somebody, after talking with them for a little while, might be open to letting you come and stay at their house with their family for the night. And even as I say those words, that's like a jarring idea for us in the 21st century, isn't it? I mean, that's just a crazy thought to think about letting a stranger come and stay in your house. I was thinking about that. I mean, imagine if after church today, we've got the grandparents are in this weekend, and so after church, we go home, we have lunch with them, and then I decide to take the dog out for a walk. And we live over in Sheffield Park, over off of Smith Valley, so basically it's a big circle. So I take the dog for a walk around the circle, and let's just say I meet somebody while I'm out for a walk with the dog. And this person, maybe their skin tone's a little bit different than mine, maybe their accent's a little bit different from mine, and they begin to tell me their story, that they've traveled in from a great distance, and they're here in town to do business, and they're just looking for a place to stay for the night. And then they begin to ask, would I be open to them coming to stay in my house with my wife and 2 teenage daughters and 17-pound miniature schnauzer? And I have to be honest with you, okay? Even after talking about hospitality all morning, I'm not sure that my first thought would be, yes, stranger, whom I don't know anything about, please come into my house and spend the night unsupervised in my house, right? We just live in a completely different world than the one Paul writes to. But just because our world looks a little bit different does not let us off the hook from his challenge to show hospitality, because it is a way that we share our faith. Okay, showing hospitality is our gospel witness. That gospel just means good news. It is our witness to the good news of what Jesus has done, how he has changed us and made a difference in our lives. Another interesting observation here to make is that Paul calls us to practice hospitality. So we don't just wait until opportunities come to us. We go out looking for ways to put our faith into action and show hospitality to others. And if you remember, I pointed out when we started, the whole section begins with Paul saying, love must be sincere. So all of this is about love in action. We show a relationship with Jesus by our love in action. Now, I don't know about you. I kind of geek out on politics, okay? So I'm a little more exhausted in 2020 about politics, but I enjoy kind of watching the political season go. And I don't know, I've been like that since I was a teenager. I've just always kind of enjoyed that. So how many of us, a couple weeks ago, tuned into the first presidential debate? A few of us? All right, a good number of us. I almost feel like calling that a debate is maybe a charitable word. It felt more like debacle. But anyway, so what you had, right, is you had this moment where, I don't know what it was, 60-some million of us or whatever, tuned in to watch this moment where one person talked over the other person, and in response, the other guy called him names. And I got to be honest, I watched this whole thing thinking, if my children at lunch today, if one of my children just continually talked over the other child, and then the other child responded by calling them names, I would punish my children for that. And we had 2 grown men who want to be the leader of the free world, and that's how they acted toward each other. They did not lead with love in that moment at that debate a couple of weeks ago. But listen, biblical love is not an emotion. It is a mindset. I do not love because I feel like loving in every moment. I love because I have chosen to be a person of love. My wife, Elizabeth, does not love me on a daily basis because I am such an amazing guy to be around, okay? You know that's not the case, and so does she, all right? She has chosen to love, and I'm sure some days it's a tougher choice than others to make, but she has chosen love in our relationship. Biblical love is not an emotion, it is a mindset. Once we have set our minds to be people of love, then hospitality should naturally flow out of everything that we do. So with Paul's admonition here to show hospitality as a backdrop, what I would love to do is just brainstorm a little bit together. I'd like to share some ideas, and maybe it'll spur your thinking on for ways that we can show hospitality in our everyday life. And I want to start by saying this. It may look a little bit different in the current season that we're in than it ever has or ever will look like to show hospitality, right? It may not be the wisest, safest move for you to go home from church and invite everybody in your neighborhood or everybody in your apartment building to come inside your house and serve up chili while you eat together and watch the Colts game this afternoon, okay? That may not be the best idea in our current season of life, but that doesn't let us off the hook to find creative ways to show hospitality to those who are around us. So here are a couple of ideas. Some of these we've tried in our own life, some I've seen in the lives of others that I thought were just a great example. The first one is this: host a life group. We push really hard as a church. We think every person in our church, every teenager in our church should be involved in a small group experience. We think that's a great place for growth and community and challenge to happen. Consider hosting your life group at your house. Yes, does it come with some risk? Sure, you might have to clean up a little bit, at least the areas that they're going to see. You know, people might come into your house and find out you're not as put together as you tried to convince them that you were along the way. You might end up in a group with somebody like me who talks all night long and won't leave. You know, you just never know, right? But there's nothing as personal as spending time studying God's Word together with folks in your space. Another one, if you have kids, have the kids' friends over. This is a great opportunity to show hospitality to their friends, and at minimum, you might get to know some of the people who influence your kids along the way. And maybe even more than that might happen. They might see an example in your life and want to know more about what it looks like to have the faith that you have. Maybe take someone out for a meal. Maybe after church or maybe during the work week at some point. Just grab somebody and say, I would love to buy you a meal day. I don't have any agenda. I promise I don't have anything I want to sell you. I simply would like to hear your story and get to know you a little bit better. Maybe if you sense that a friend is struggling, grab coffee for someone who's struggling with a little bit. Grab coffee with somebody who's struggling. We all have those moments where our radar goes off and we think we have a friend that just things don't seem to be right now. And when you feel that, it's time for you to ask, let's go out and spend some time talking. You don't have to be an expert on everything that they're struggling with. You simply can listen. Here's one that Elizabeth and I have been doing since we were engaged. Secretly give a gift to someone. This one's a lot of fun. I just have to tell you, if you hear of a situation that you can be a blessing in, maybe somebody's having some trouble financially and you could get some store gift cards, or somebody's going through a difficult season and you could give some cash, and you can do those things, put that together and give it to a third person who will give it away without anyone ever knowing it was you. Man, it is an incredible blessing. I just have to tell you, it is a lot of fun to be able to meet needs for somebody in a way that they can never personally thank you for. We've done that for people several times over the years. We've even had it done to us, and it's pretty cool. If you've not done it, try it, and you'll see what I mean. Maybe you could consider hosting a foreign exchange student. I mean, what a great way. We talk about making a difference around the world. What a great way to make a difference around the world, to host someone in your house. And again, have them go to church with you, have them see the kinds of things that you talk about and care about in your own home. Maybe you could support people you know who are fostering or adopting. What an incredible mission, those who feel called to foster or adopt. And it's a great opportunity for us to communicate, hey, I'm praying for you. Is there anything you do? Do you need any resources? Do you need anything financially? Can I support the way that God is leading you in this? Maybe buy a meal for the homeless. This is, again, one we've just tried to teach our kids along the way. Elizabeth and I, our own personal practice is that when we see somebody out holding a sign, we generally don't give money to that. But if somebody has a sign that says, I'm hungry, we love to go to a restaurant, grab some food, and bring it back to them. Now, does it always go well? Absolutely not. We had a time one time several years ago, our kids were much younger. I think we had been to Sam's Club or something like that. So we had tons of groceries in the car, a bunch of frozen stuff. We were annoyed. You know what it's like. You know, we had small kids in the car, and we were tired after a trip, and we just wanted to get home. We drive by, we see somebody with a sign. I'm confessing I did not have the best attitude. And we looked at each other like, are you feeling convicted? Yeah, me too. So we decided this is a moment we need to serve. So we went over to a restaurant, grabbed some food, brought it back to the guy, reached out to hand it to him, and he said, no thanks. We're like, what? He said, well, I've already got 2 bags of food here. And I'm going to confess to you in this moment, right? My sinful flesh took over. I was just not happy with the thought that somebody had a sign that said, I'm hungry, I need help, and I brought them food, and they said, I got more food than I need. I was frustrated and judgmental and condescending in that moment. But here's the deal. In that moment, it is not your responsibility to decide who needs to be helped and who doesn't need to help. Your job is to be faithful when God calls you to step in and make a difference in somebody's life. Or maybe, I knew of a small group at one time that would put together homeless care kits. They would get together, and a part of their meeting time every couple of months, when they started to run low, part of their activity in Bible study time was to put together these kits, Ziploc bags that had what folks who worked with the homeless in the area told them was needed. So chapstick and granola bars and bottled water and gloves and toothbrush and toothpaste, all those things. They would assemble them together, and then they would each keep them in their cars and be able to hand them out when they saw people who needed it. Or maybe you could offer babysitting to a parent you know. You know some folks in your life with young kids and they don't get out much. It's a great opportunity. Maybe you know a single parent. It's just a chance for you to offer without expecting anything in return, something for somebody else. Or maybe you could host a dinner party. All right, Kathy Stallhut here at our church is like the queen of dinner parties. She is absolutely incredible. I took this picture. Kathy invited us to a dinner party shortly after we moved here. And her parties could be in magazines. She's absolutely amazing. It's a great way that she shows hospitality to those around her. And so my advice, if that's interesting to you, just attach yourself to Kathy and learn everything you can from her because she's great, all right? Or start healthy conversations. Maybe hospitality for you looks like starting a conversation with somebody who doesn't look like you. Or maybe somebody whose accent is different from yours, or somebody that you perceive their socioeconomic status is different from yours. Just ask somebody about their story and learn from it. We're going out here in a couple of weeks with a couple that we met while we were just serving at the concession stand at the high school. This couple's from Sweden, and they've been over in the States a number of years. Both of our kids are in band together, and we were just serving and talking and asking them a bunch of questions. And we said, man, we're having a great time. Do you guys want to get together and have dinner and just talk a little bit more? Listen, my goal is not to beat them over the head with a Bible while we have dinner with them. My goal is simply to be a good friend, to learn more about their story and their experiences and what makes them them. Or maybe you can look to meet a neighbor's need. A couple weeks ago, I traveled to help somebody in our church with a project they were doing. And so I flew back to Indianapolis, hopped in my truck at the airport, and drove back to my house. And as I was pulling the truck in the driveway, I noticed a neighbor across the street. They had a bunch of flags out in front of their house and a big sign that said deployment party, and it was that day's date. So I took my stuff into the house and gave everybody a hug, and then I headed right back out. I just felt called in the moment to do something. So I grabbed a business card, I wrote my cell phone number and Elizabeth's cell phone number, and I walked across the street, and I had talked to this neighbor a couple times, but not a ton since they moved in. And I just said, hey man, I had two things, okay? First, I want to thank you for your service. I want to thank you for the fact that you are willing to go out and do all the things that you're going to be asked to do to keep my family safe. Thank you for that. I want you to know I appreciate that. And the second thing is this, while you're gone, we would like to serve your family. So if there's anything you need, day or night, at any time, your wife is welcome to call us or walk across the street. We will do anything that we can to help out. And the guy said, thank you. He said, hey, I think I remember you guys. Aren't you the ones that last year you brought cookies over and invited us to Christmas Eve? And I said, yeah. And he said, we really appreciate that. I said, well, my daughter's life group actually made those cookies, and they were just inviting people to Christmas services. And we just wanted to say we care. But if there's anything we can do, please let us. Now, listen, that's not an exhaustive list. That's not like the 13 ways to win the world for Jesus or anything like that. Our goal is to challenge each other to show hospitality. Maybe that will jog your thinking, and you will find ways in your own life that make a ton of sense for you to be able to share your faith by showing hospitality to those around you. Because what we believe is that hospitality opens doors for Jesus. Now, the folks in your life may want to know more about your relationship with Christ if they see it lived out. I wish that everybody in our church could read the notes that we receive, the encouraging notes that come through after times like Serve Day or after Pie Day in March, where we go and give a bunch of pies to Greenwood Middle School, or even Tuesday morning. I was at a coffee shop studying for today's message, and this note came into the church's Facebook page. It said, community meal is probably the best ministry GCC has, sharing in the body of Christ at its finest. And we try to share these when we can because we want people to know what's going on, but it sounds pretty arrogant if we share those all the time, so we don't always get to. What we know is hospitality is just an excellent way for people to want to know a little bit more about your faith. And like I said, it might look different these days, but man, come on, everything looks different these days, right? So we use creative ways to show hospitality to those around us. Our challenge this week is for you to look for an opportunity to bless someone outside these walls. Look for an opportunity this week to bless someone outside of these walls and make a difference. Maybe you'll do it anonymously. Maybe it'll be with words. Maybe it'll be with actions. Maybe it'll take finances. Maybe it'll just take time. But no matter what, we remember this. Hospitality opens doors for Jesus. Let's pray. God, we thank you. We thank you for the ways that you challenge us, that you encourage us, that you equip us. God, all of the folks who are represented online right now and represented in this room, folks who will participate in the service even after the fact. You've blessed us each with certain passions, certain things that tug at our hearts, ways that we can serve those around us, the finances that you have given to us. God, show us this week how you might have us make an impact on someone else's life by showing hospitality. God, I pray that you burden every heart who's a part of this service now to make a difference with our actions this week. God, we love you. We praise you. It's in your Son's name. We say amen. Well, again, we are so glad we get to spend a little bit of time worshiping with you today. If you're live online with us, we'd love to welcome you to a time of next steps over on Zoom, where there'll be some hosts who want to connect with you. If you're here in the room with us, just hang out for a minute and ushers will dismiss you. But this week, look for a way to show hospitality to somebody else. Have a great week.